Hi guys, so today I wanted to talk about being a housewife and how I have gotten some really negative comments lately, and so has my husband, over the fact that I stay home and I do not work. Now, I've gotten the comment, oh, it must be nice. Your husband must force you to do that. All of the negative things, and even my husband got it the other day. He was talking to his coworker. He started a new job, and his coworker asked what his wife did for a living, and Ed goes, she stays home. Now, I know everybody is curious and everybody's home is different, but in the US, for some reason, being a housewife has been kind of looked down on, and I am not sure why, because 40, 50 years ago, this was a very common thing for the woman to stay home and the husband to work. And I'm not even trying to put it as like a sexist thing. It is what it is. Screaming children. In other countries, it's still very common. For my husband and myself, this was something we had talked about doing when we started dating. I think it was like our third or fourth date. We were talking about what our goals were for the future. When we wanted a family, would I still work? Would I want to stay home? What I really wanted to do. And honestly, I've always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Even when I did work, though I did enjoy working, and I worked up until 5 years ago, so I did work while I had little children, I never was happy working when I had children. I loved my job, don't get me wrong. I loved the job I had. It was extremely convenient. I worked overnights, so I didn't have to put my kids in daycare. It really did work out for us, but I was unhappy having to work. I remember after having Jeffrey, after the 6 weeks, I actually had to go back, and I was sobbing that last week I was home. I was so upset that I had to go back to work, but unfortunately at the time we needed my income. So at that time when we got pregnant with Jeffrey, it really became the discussion of what were we going to do so that we did not have to rely on my income so that I could stay home with our children. And one thing is Ed got a new job. So Ed got a new job. He went back into trucking. He's a truck driver, which he was before, but that year that I actually was pregnant with Jeffrey, and a little before and a little after, he actually stepped down from driving for a little bit and took a year off and did something else, which was fine. But in the meantime, that meant we really both needed both incomes. And then we had Jeffrey. I think like a month later, he ended up getting another job. He started looking for a trucking job, and actually right when we found out we were pregnant with Robert, which if you don't know, my boys are 10 and a half months apart, he actually started a new job. So when it was time for Robert to be born, we knew I was going to stay home. So I stepped down from my position at work. I actually did not leave my job. I went down to per diem, where I would work if they needed me, if I was available, which was much more convenient for us. So I stayed home for 4 months after having Robert. And then I went back to cover a couple of coworkers were getting married, so I covered so that everyone else could go. So I did that. And then another house that on the company that I worked with, because the company I worked for, they did residential living homes. Another house had somebody going on maternity leave and asked if I would be interested in covering for those 2 months that they were out. And we were like, you know what, it's getting close to the holidays. Why not? It'd be nice to have the little extra income. So at first I was just covering for the 2 months, and then she decided not to come back. And Ed and I talked about it, and we had been discussing on moving at that point. So we said, you know what, if I do take this position for it was, I think, going to be 11 months until we were going to be moving, because we were going to move when our lease was up, then I would do it only because it was going to be temporary, and the hours worked. I was only scheduled for 24 hours, though I typically was working anywhere from 24 to 30 with picking up some extra hours. So we decided to do that because we knew the goal was to move down south, because down here it is much cheaper to live than it was in Massachusetts. So that was one of our things. The cost of living was cheaper down here. We had always talked about moving. And when we talked about moving, we were going to move down here because, yes, the cost of living is cheaper, but my husband's job, the pay is exactly the same. So it would be like we were living on our income in Massachusetts, just minus me because of the cost of living change. So that was our reason for moving. Granted, we did want to move south. We had family moving too. So there was a lot of factors, but that was one of it because we wanted me to stay home. And we knew eventually we were contemplating having a third child, and we would not be able to afford it if we had stayed in Massachusetts because it's very expensive there. So for that last year that we were in Massachusetts and I was working again with 2 small kids, it was really tough. It was so tough. Our relationship, I don't want to say took a toll, but we were working opposite shifts. So any days that he were off, I was working that overnight. So we didn't really spend a lot of quality time together, but we were sacrificing to get to this point because we knew the goal was we wanted to have me stay home. So this was not a forced thing. This was not, oh, Ed just doesn't want me to work, or I don't want to work. I actually do like working and I like contributing a paycheck, but at the same time, I am still working. I am still home. I am still taking care of the children. And so that was our goal. This was a mutual thing we wanted. We worked hard to get here. I honestly never thought it was going to happen. It was one of those like, okay, we keep saying it's going to happen, and then is it really going to happen? And then once it finally did, it actually took a while to get used to it. It was hard to transition from being working to staying home and feeling like I'm not contributing. But when you think about all the things that a housewife does, you really do a lot. I do have a lot of credit for the women that work full time and do everything at home. It's tough. But this was something we consciously wanted to do, and it was a mutual thing. I was not forced to stay at home. I didn't say, no, I don't want to work anymore. You need to make more money. This was something we planned. This was a planned thing. We wanted this. And I'm so grateful that we did, because look at what we have now. We are now able to homeschool. Nothing changed during during what's been happening in 2020. Ed still worked. We didn't lose an income. Nothing changed, and because I was home already, I was able to still be here for the boys. What would have happened if I was working and now the boys are home from school, but everything's closed? We would have lost my income. We wouldn't have been financially ready for that. So for me, I feel like overall staying home is just so much better. I love being a housewife. I love cooking and cleaning. I guess if you don't like that stuff, then no, being a housewife is probably not for you. But I thoroughly enjoy it. I like cooking. I like cleaning. I like taking care of my children full time. Though yes, it is stressful. And I'm not saying every day is perfect and every day everything gets done. I'm not going to lie. I had 2 loads of laundry in an unmade bed until about 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So, I mean, stuff like that does happen. But at the same time, there are so many benefits to it that I just love it. I love that we're home. I love that I'm here to watch them grow and help them learn and be able to cook them food. It's just, to me, I feel less stressed by not working, even though there are so many other stresses, with everything going on. And I'm not saying that everything's perfect and, we haven't struggled financially because of this, because we have, and I've contemplated going back to work. But when we look at the numbers, financially it's not worth it, because the cost, what my job was down here is half of what it was in Massachusetts. So I would get paid less, a lot less. So financially it's not worth it. And then how do you find childcare? And Ed's schedule just doesn't work for my schedule, what I could do now. So we kind of are looking at it that way and trying to figure out, we looked at the numbers and went, nope, I still need to stay home. And this was a few years ago. Now it's fine. We're great now, but when we first got down here, it was really hard. And honestly, it was really harder for me because that transition took me a while. I want to say it took a good 2 years for me to finally get used to it. And I have talked to other women who have, gone from working to staying home full time, and it is quite the transition. I took it hard. I didn't think I would. Even though this was something I wanted, it was hard to make that transition. But I must say, I absolutely love it. No, I was not forced. And yes, I do feel very grateful that I am able to stay home. I know a lot of people are not able to, and I feel for you, but this is just something that we mutually wanted to do together. Ed and I had thought about this for years. We have been together for 11 years now, and this is what we've wanted from day one. And it was just working to get there. And obviously, if we've been together for 11 years, but I've only been home for 5, it's kind of, it took a while to get there, because it is quite the transition. It is, especially pay wise, and getting, you've got to figure out your finances. And like I said, we made the big choice to move. Now we've even thought, we've talked about it, and it's like, oh my gosh, had we stayed, like, I would still be working, he'd still be working, we would be miserable. We were miserable when I was when I was working. We both were miserable because, and I'm not trying, how do I say this? There was a lot that we both had to do together. I needed a lot more help. And because Ed was already working like 60, 70 hours a week, to help at the end of the day when he's exhausted, but now I've got to leave, now he's got the kids, and you're exhausted, and he's got to go back to work in like 3 hours. It was too much. It was too much. We were very stressed. We were stressed financially more when I was working than we are now, which is kind of hilarious. And we actually laughed about this the other day. We were talking about it, and I'm like, we were so stressed financially. There was so many, like, it was just so much more expensive, but yet I was working, and we had 2 incomes, and we were actually, I think we were making more. Nope, I think that we're making more. But at the time, like, financially, we were making really good money, but it was so stressful. And now we're so much better. And up there, we had no car payment. We had paid our truck off. We had 1 vehicle. We now have 2 vehicles. We have 2 car payments, and I don't work. So financially, we're so much in a better place. And we were actually laughing about it, how we were so stressed when I was working. Yet I had to work to get us here. And it was just the fact that now I'm home, and, we can do what we want. Like, the kids and I are going to get up, and we're going to go to my in-laws for a week. And I'm able to do that. I don't have to worry about, oh, well, I have to work, or the kids have to go to school. I can get up and go. And guess what? We can do everything there that we would have done here. And I'm so grateful that we're able to do that. Like, we're just at a part where it's so great. And I must say, all the negativity I've gotten over being a housewife, I must say, I get it. I can see why people might think, oh, you must just sit around all day. No, I don't. When I actually get to sit down, one, I feel guilty half the time, because I'm like, I probably have something I'm forgetting to do, or you're just so exhausted that you finally have to take a break. I remember the other night, or the other day, it was Sunday. I had done a lot on Saturday. We were like, okay, let's get everything done Saturday so that Sunday we can rest. The kids wanted to do movies and stuff. So we were watching some movies together, and when I got up after watching a movie, I was like I haven't sat down for that long in like the longest time, especially in the middle of the day. Normally I don't take a break really until the end of the day, because I try to get everything done, and we have so much going on. And I just heard the timer because we got to start school in a few minutes. So like I said, I thoroughly enjoy being a stay-at-home mom. I am not forced. This is not something that I was just like, no, I'm staying home. You need to make more money. Or Ed said, I don't want you to work. You need to stay home. This was a mutual thing. And I think had it not been a mutual thing, it would not work as well as it does. And it's not for everybody. Staying home is tough. And I'm not saying it's all, unicorns and rainbows. There are days where I want to lose my crap. I almost did this morning over, we're having some food issues with a child, and I almost lost my crap. And I called Ed, and I'm like, oh, I know it's a phase, but I'm like, again, but now everything's better. Child apologized. We're all done. We're moving on to the day. But I'm just so grateful that I'm able to stay home. I know for a lot of women it is hard, and fathers, I know there are fathers who want to stay home too. I am very grateful that I'm home, and I never take it for granted. And I know there could be a point where I'm going to go back to work. I'm sure once Mia's, well, now we're homeschooling, so who knows? If the kids all go back to school and Mia goes to school too, who knows? I might go back to work, but right now this is just, it's great for us. We love it. The kids are thriving, and that's all I can worry about. I can't worry about the negativity and the negative comments. I'm sorry. This is what works for us. And the fact that this was the norm years ago, and it is norms in so many other countries, but for some reason in the US, this is just like, oh, how dare you stay home and not contribute? How do you think the house runs so nicely? Or everything gets done, appointments are, kept. I really want to know how working moms, or not just working moms, but when both parents are working full time, how the heck do you get your kids to appointments? Like, Jeffrey's got 2 appointments this week. We've got one next week. Like, what would you do? Take time off from work? Like, I just don't know how you would do it. Like, it's, for me, it's like, oh yeah, we can do it whenever, you know, like I don't have to be like, oh, well, we have to work till here. Oh, well, these are the only days. I can be like, here, we have something this day, so can you do another day during the week? That's it. It's so, I feel like it's so much easier, and I'm less stressed not working, which is kind of funny because I was so stressed while working, and it mostly was financial. Yet now I'm not working and there's no stresses. So it's not for everybody, but if it's something you really want, maybe look into how much are you paying for daycare? Are you really making more after you pay for daycare? Is it really worth that time? Like, that's how it was for me. Like, honestly, I wouldn't even make enough to cover daycare. That's how expensive it would be for 3 kids. So for me, it wasn't worth it. And even in Massachusetts, I think we did the math. And if I did my job during the day and the kids were in daycare, I think I would take home like $200 a week, and that was it. And it wasn't worth it for us. So that's why I did the overnights. So you just have to make it work for you. It's not going to work for everybody, but you know what? It works for us. We are enjoying it. Nothing was forced. This is what we wanted. So that is all. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I'll see you in our next video.